This is your home for St. Cloud State hockey, keeping you up to date on the NCHC.
One-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Pervix!
Women's WCHA.
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
The National Hockey League.
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill, the thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL, a game winner!
And everything from the state of hockey.
St. Cloud Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.
Welcome to the Huskies Warming House Podcast Den. Welcome in. Healthy Scratch interview segment, episode number 84 here on the Huskies Warming House podcast. Noah Grant, that's my voice. The voice you're about to hear, Nick Maxon, aka Mr. Bankrupt, my co-host here. Nick, why are you bankrupt, and who made you bankrupt, and do we have them on the show?
We do. Caleb Peabody's making me bankrupt because he keeps putting room service, he has Val's orders. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if I saw pay-per-view stuff go on that as well. And it's going right on the credit card. And yeah, I'm already behind on that anyway. So, but we have him on the show. He's a dear friend of the podcast, a great social media interaction too as well. And another fun little lighthearted episode here for the Huskies on their bye week. So won't see action until a week from this Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, we appreciate Caleb picking it up. It was a late call up for him, and we'll get into that obviously in the episode, and we're not going to keep you waiting. Episode number 84, Healthy Scratch interview segment with Caleb J. Peabody.
Welcome back to the Den, Husky Warming House podcast fans. It is episode number 84. It is our Tuesday interview segment coming at you. And with us is the HWH super fan, constant Nick Maxon chirper, and the guy that's run up my freaking bank tab to the point where now my nickname is Bankrupt. Caleb Jeffrey Peabody, thank you for joining us here on the show.
Thanks, guys. And thanks for throwing in my middle name. Look at that. I've made it real time now.
Well, I was told that, when it was made known of your middle name, that I would not remember it. And it's in my noggin, bro. So,
yeah, I mean, struggle bus city. Caleb, I got to be honest. You are a late addition to the show. We do have some men's hockey players in the works, but they aren't able to make it this week. So you are thankfully you got the late call up. You've been in the big leagues before. You've been on the show. My question is this though: you're sitting doing your thing today. You get a text about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. You find out that you're going to get the call up on the show. I mean, did you call your parents? I mean, who was your first phone call?
I think I got a text.
Yeah, that's very true. I was very shocked when I got the text, and Noah was like, "Hey, it's your time. Get ready." I started packing my bags. I changed my shirt, which is great, and it was kind of iffy. They said, "Well, you might be a late addition. We don't know. You could still be a late scratch." And but I got the skates ready, laced them up, and here I am back for round 2, and just pumped to be back with you guys.
We almost could have pulled a Nick Dowd on you. Nick, you remember that story when Nick Dowd said he got called up and actually got sent back to the minors and had to wait a couple of days. But speaking of lacing the skates up, Caleb, one of the things that we were kind of talking about pre-show is that you weren't actually ever a hockey player. You can skate a little bit, but weren't you kind of a big baseball guy growing up?
Yeah, so grew up in a hockey town, can skate a little bit, enough to stand up and just maybe wave to the camera. I'm not as skilled on the ice as you fellas, but college hockey and hockey in general has become kind of a love for me. I was better on cleats and on dirt, so I played baseball growing up. I was good at that to a point too, and then my unathletic skill kind of kicked in. And now I'm just a big sports fan overall, but college hockey and the NHL are my first and second love. And as you know, that's all I pretty much tweet about as well. When I'm not tweeting at Bankrupt Nick.
Yeah. Caleb, it's now 3 weeks into this season. Let's actually talk a little bit about the jerseys, or the boys that wear the jerseys that are behind us. First of all, we talked when you were last on about this non-conference schedule. This was in the summertime, and how exciting this was going to be. Did it live up to the hype, or what kind of, I guess, what were your impressions of, the series against Minnesota, Wisconsin, against St. Thomas in there to kind of get their feet wet in Division I? I guess, how did it go for you?
Yeah, well, it definitely lived up to expectations, and I've been excited about it since they announced the schedule. I've been kind of vocal about it and kind of echoing Brett Larson's comments as well. Like, we knew this would be a tough schedule coming in, but I think it's going to be really good in the long run for this team and really good for college hockey fans, honestly. Like, we got to see some incredible matchups, starting with St. Thomas, obviously jumping into the D1 waters. But it was fun. I was at the first game, and yeah, we put up 12 points on them, but honestly, like, they're a good team. They're going to be good soon enough. Give them a couple years, and as you guys know, they're going to be right there with the rest of the group. As far as Mankato, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, like, what else could you ask for? Like, we really just got a gauntlet 3 weekends in a row. And, technically I'm calling the record 6-1-1. Some would say it's 6-2-0, but I think we couldn't wish for anything better than that. We lost 1-0 to Mankato, and that was a tightly contested game, as you know, down in their barn. David stood on his head. The whole team played great. And then Minnesota, like, we very easily could have swept that series. Now, I know that's controversial. We've been over it a million times. We don't have to get into it, but we very easily could have won both those hockey games. And then against Wisconsin, I just felt like we were the better team both nights. I mean, the score showed it. I think they've had an interesting non-conference schedule on their end for the Badgers as well. And now they're heading in against Michigan. Good luck to them Thursday and Friday. But, heading in, getting a bye week, I think this bye week falls in perfect for this team. I'll let you guys chime in on that too. I think we're a little nicked up, who wouldn't be after these 8 games. And then we really get that test with the NCHC conference schedule. I mean, every team, we can joke about the Miami of Ohio's and the Colorado colleges, but there's not going to be an easy weekend. But I think this team is well prepped and ready to go and excited to get into it. So I'm happy maybe to have a weekend off too, just decompress, enjoy it. I guess we're the number 1 team in the nation. We'll take it, and we'll kind of go from there.
Caleb, you had mentioned, we mentioned a certain event a million times, but we're going to mention 1,000,001 because I really want to go back to the Nick Perbix jersey grab. And of course, Bob Motzko rescinding his comments that he had made post game and saying that it wasn't a dive. Now, going back in that, of course, I was watching the game live. Nick was watching the game live. But we're hockey players. And like you mentioned, you never played the game. When you watched it live, did it take you a second to kind of realize that, it wasn't, it maybe should have been called? Or was that something, like, from the fan perspective, I should say, what was your initial reaction on that play?
Well, first off, it was great to be in the building for that game. I mean, around 6,000 fans. I don't know what the final head count was, maybe less than that. So don't quote me on Twitter if I got that wrong. But college hockey is back. After a hard year last year, it was great to see the place packed for a college hockey rivalry in real time. I had said something heading into the overtime to the couple that sat next to me. I said, hey, overtime's generally in the first 30 seconds. Watch out. Could be a goal one way or the other. We've seen this the last couple of years. And I think the goal came officially at 36 seconds. And they were like, oh, my gosh. But when the actual play happened, I, along with 5,500 to 6,000 other fans, could tell that was a penalty right away. And I don't think it was just Husky fans. We heard a lot from Gopher fans too. There was obviously Gopher fans in the house. We've heard from media. We've heard from Bob Motzko himself afterwards. He's had some time. I think those comments, right after the game, energy's high, emotion's high, obviously. I don't think he meant anything negative by it, but definitely was unfortunate. Now, the reaction afterwards, obviously with items being thrown on the ice, I'm not a fan of that. I don't think anyone would say they're a fan. The one view that I got from a Gopher fan who wasn't there, he said, well, I can tell you this, the rivalry's back. if anyone questioned it was gone, it's back. And there's a lot of emotion and thankfully no one got hurt. And I know Commissioner Josh Fenton was in the building, and I'm sure those officials got a talking to at some point. But honestly, like, what I saw 2 things from it that I really took away and I felt good about, and it doesn't surprise me. I saw Brett Larson get angrier than I've ever seen in my life. And go across the ice and really stick up for the team, which is great. And then I also saw him put his arm around David Rennick, which doesn't surprise me at all. It just shows the character of Brett Larson and the staff and those guys, because that wasn't on David at all. When that play happened, like, in real time, we saw everyone stop. I don't care what anyone says on Twitter or anywhere else. The Gopher players stopped. Everyone stopped for maybe just a couple seconds, half a second, whatever you want to call it. Because I think everyone's like, oh, that's a penalty.
Yeah.
And then, yes, they picked play back up. I guess you could argue that maybe we should have as well. But, it was disappointing and probably one of the best hockey games that we've had so far this season. I haven't watched every college hockey game across the country, but you could argue 2 top 5 teams, packed house, homecoming weekend for SCSU, the sweetest sweaters you've ever seen in your life. I mean, Nick's got a couple sweet ones behind him, but those homecoming sweaters, prime.
Yeah, 5,530 in the building that night, by the way, official head count. So,
and probably plenty more than the parking lot. I know that they had obviously the festivities and the screens out front, and it was cool to see the community come around. Obviously, not in the negative fashion, afterwards, but knowing that this community stands behind its team as we would expect, and they played a really good weekend series, and it wasn't perfect, but it's unfortunate that a call like that with the official right there. I've watched the video a billion times, as I know you guys have, and I'm like, how do you miss that?
It's tough.
It happens. We move on. So.
Exactly. Caleb, I just want to pick up on one point, because if there's one, sort of thing that I know I've hit on probably more than a few times is this non-conference schedule. Your fans' perspective, the rivalry's back. They can't just last for one game if it's going to recapture a rivalry. It has to be something that's done, repeatedly. And ever since the WCHA men's side broke up, there's been this sort of void in the college hockey landscape here in the state of Minnesota. And then, so happens to be when this non-conference schedule comes out, many factors lead into it. But you got 4 Minnesota teams in the top 5, and then Bemidji State also there in the top 20 in some respects. You got 5 of the 6 that have been established programs that are ranked. If you're either one of these leagues, whether it's the Big Ten, the NCHC, the CCHA, and the schools, looking at the interest and looking at what the conversations that has sort of formed from, this non-conference schedule, how do you not repeat this? Honestly, I think that's the big thing is you have to, kind of strike the iron while it's hot. And I think for me, if you're going to have this rivalry comment, which I would love to have it, you need to do this again. And it would be great for the players, great for the fans, and great for the state. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I think the Minnesota matchup has to be automatic every year. And that's my opinion. I think the home and home works. Could you do it in their barn both for the whole weekend or in our barn the whole weekend? Absolutely, you could. But I think to your point, like playing the Minnesota State Mankato's, we'll see Bemidji later on in the year, seeing St. Thomas, even though they're up and coming. I think it's been really good for the state of hockey. It's been really good across all the conferences. And, I've joked about having some sort of North Star College Cup again, but you don't necessarily have to have a tournament per se if you just have a sweet non-conference schedule like this. And why wouldn't you do it? Like now, looking back, I think, as Brett Larson stated right before, it's like, dang, this is going to be a gauntlet. This is going to be how we had it broken up. But I think it was the best thing for this team after the run they made last year. Like get them ready, get them prepped, get them to that speed that they need to be at heading into conference play, because there's no givens in that. And it excites me because that was one of my big worries last year when we got to the tournament. Last year was such a weird year. When we got to, BU and Boston College and Minnesota State Mankato, it's like, we hadn't seen these teams. Hey, we've seen our conference and our conference is the best in the country, knock on wood. But, how are we going to match up? Now I think we know, and it got us up and going early on the season. So hopefully everyone comes out healthy. It sounds like they will. And that's what matters most.
Speaking of the conference, Caleb, it's a great transition here. And of course, no easy night in the NCHC. Really no easy night, I would say, in the Huskies schedule. I'd say St. Thomas on paper might have been the quote unquote easiest one. And we got that one out of the way in day 1 and 2, so to speak. We've seen some pretty good performances so far from teams in the NCHC so far this season. I definitely have my vote for the team that I'm most worried about for the Huskies facing this season. I'm kind of curious, as you've gotten through whatever it is, week 5 or 6 of the season, what team so far in the NCHC have you penciled in as a team that's like, oh boy, the Huskies better have this one circled and have their A game both nights?
I have 2 technically. And I was thinking about this today after I got the the great text for the call up.
Can
I was like,
can I guess them and see if they match?
Yeah, absolutely.
Duluth and Western Michigan.
Very close. I would say Denver and Western Michigan.
Okay.
And Western Michigan being 1A, Denver being 1B. When I look at our conference, and sorry to go on another tangent, Nick can throw something at me anytime.
I don't want to break my own computer screen.
He already did that naturally.
Yeah, he doesn't want to buy a new computer. I nothing against Miami of Ohio and Colorado College. I don't think they're quite there yet. But the other teams, 1 through 6, I think getting to the top 4 is going to be extremely difficult. And I mean, the top 10 rankings in the country show that. But I think Western has always given St. Cloud State kind of a tough matchup of how they play. They're very talented, very skilled, very well coached. As you saw on Twitter this last weekend, I thought there could be a chance they would sweep Michigan. And if it wasn't for a weird call in the second game, they were very close to sweeping Michigan. But even coming out with a split is super impressive. So I think Western's going to be tough. I think Denver is sneaky good, a lot of talent. I think they had a weird year last year. We talked about them for so long of like, if they could just put it together, they could get into the tournament and be dangerous. The problem is they didn't win hockey games. That's all it came down to. They didn't win the hockey games. It is important. I like to think I'm getting close to being an elite college hockey mind, but what I've been told is score a lot of goals, win hockey games, and you'll be okay. So I think those two teams, obviously, like, that's not to take anything away from your UND, your Omaha, your UMD, because I think they're all going to be there. But I do think Western, for me, is going to be that sneaky team. I think they're ranked 9th this week in a few polls, and I think they're only going to get stronger and stronger. Now, I think they have Colgate out at Colgate this weekend, which will be an interesting matchup. But coming off Michigan, you got to think that hockey team's feeling pretty good, right? Like, in-state rival, number 1 team, 7 first-round draft picks on that squad, and
I was pretty shocked. I was pretty shocked that they were at number 9. I was kind of maybe thinking they were going to be maybe 7 or something like that. And Nick, I don't know what your thoughts were, but I mean, I kind of felt like, I mean, you play one of the best teams in the number 1 team in the country at that point in that kind of a series. I know the pairwise says differently per se, but I kind of felt like in the polls, they probably could have even made a bigger jump.
Well, real quick about the early season rankings, and this is no disrespect to Michigan because they're a good hockey team, but I think a lot of their rankings based on the talent level, not necessarily their performance right now too. So at the end of it, Michigan has a lot to prove this year, and especially come tournament time. And that is, does that, a wallop of skill that they have, does it translate to actually victories and actually earning their way through? I mean, we've seen it with the Gophers a bit. They have a lot of talent on that squad too, but again, it's young talent, it's inexperienced talent. And, for Minnesota, I still think they're a tweener team that's going to need some more experience down the road, whether it's this year or next year. They're eventually going to be a very dangerous hockey squad with just how much talent they have. Now, granted, that means that they got to hold on to every piece. But I think Michigan's getting that number 1, at least early on, because of the talent pool, not necessarily how they've been winning hockey games.
Yeah, well, they're going to be a scary team, let me tell you. And I've circled that trip out for SDSU out there, and it's always tough. Like, no matter, even in a down year, it's always tough for us to go to Kalamazoo, but should be interesting.
Yeah, and that Michigan team too, that Wolverines group, if they can keep that core together for not only this year but maybe next year, retain some of those guys that are high-end NHL draft picks, I think that there's a lot of development there too. And, they're a team that, along with Minnesota, are probably the 1-2 matchup in the Big Ten right now, at least for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, next year is another story, but it should be interesting. Caleb, on the fan side though, let's kind of bring it back to our show and your social media presence here. When you go into like a given day or a given week and you fire up the Twitter, on your laptop, on your phone, and you see at the Puck Scribe pull up. I mean, what's in your arsenal? I mean, like how many arm wrestlings do you think you have a week? I mean, what is the backstory here? What's the game plan?
Well, it's really, that relationship is still blossoming. If you ask Nick Maxon, he'll give you his side of things. But from my side, I really look to just have fun with your guys' account too. Obviously, I listen to your content. I watch the YouTube stream. Hopefully drive some numbers for you folks as well. But Nick obviously likes to poke fun at himself. And I just take that to the next step a little bit. For me, I'm really interesting though. Like I have a personal line that I draw though. Like I don't love the negativity. I've talked to you guys about that. Like we've gotten to know each other well enough where, even some things, not that I check in beforehand, but I'll be like, hey, ooh, is that too much? But honestly, when you think about me and Nick, a lot of times it's just like poking the bear a little bit, and just seeing, when I fire up the Twitter stream, I see what's going on with Nick, what he's doing. And a lot of times, like, it's also building him up a little bit too by joking at him. And, he got me a couple weeks ago. You saw it, Noah. He came back at me. He had one win in the arsenal. I don't recall exactly what it was, but it was such a quick comeback with a GIF. I was like, oh boy. And I think I was just like, I could think about this and respond, but I'm just like, I concede.
I think I remember it. Wasn't it? You said something and he put the GIF, a warm glass to shut the hell up, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It was the Shooter McGavin play.
Yeah.
It was very quick. And I was like, I'll give you that point. But by the time the sun rises tomorrow, I'm back on my game. And I was.
And I don't know how you can retain or keep away the negativity, Caleb. I'm getting pretty hangry here without our room service and Val's, man. It's
right. For those that are just learning, I mean, when Nick went to the Frozen Four, he didn't send us any snacks. He didn't get us room service. He left me and Noah behind.
Unreal.
And then all we requested was like, we just want one meal or bring us back something. We would have even taken Val's. You could have gone all the way back to St. Cloud and then just picked up Val's and sent it to us. Or like we could have met you outside and ate together. Nothing. We got nothing.
So let me recap this for the fans a little bit. So room service, you got to be at the same hotel. 2, unless, you're eating McDonald's burgers, which I swear to God injected it with, formaldehyde that, you want me to send it to a week later so you can heat it up in the, I don't even know what you heat it up.
Same day air. Same day air.
I mean, yeah, that's true because that stuff, just never, dissipates. But Val's is better stuff than that. Come on, you got to give them a lot more credit than that. Come on,
absolutely.
Come on.
And you were eating like filet mignon. You were taking pictures. You're like, look at this. Look at how great this is. And
it was like, ribeye. Thank you.
Okay, whatever it was. And me and Noah were back here eating Cheetos, which nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But we were just like, we wanted anything.
Yeah, for those who don't know, that restaurant I've been to once before, and it was.
Now he's talking up the food.
Yeah,
food critic.
Well, no, and it's funny because that same restaurant building was used in the filming of the movie Concussion. Was actually the first floor. I think I mentioned this last time we were on too.
Honestly, every time you talk, I get a concussion. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, trust me. You should see how I feel when it bounces off the mirror. So, no, but seriously, it was so impressive the first time. I'm a foodie at heart. So I don't know. So I just
okay. So let's start with this, Nick Maxon. Okay. Here's a chance to redeem yourself. Okay, I got 4 weeks off in Christmas. We know you're a busy guy. Caleb's doing his thing, but let's say by happenstance, we all three meet each other in the Twin Cities area. What are 3 of your go-to places that you're taking Caleb and I on a food run here?
Caleb and I. Sounds like I'm taking you guys on a double date, for God's sakes. All right. So
you're actually
it's actually kind of true. So are we looking for it doesn't matter what type of food it is, just the best Minneapolis has to offer?
Yeah. I'd say like a mix of like a little bit of class, but a little bit of uniqueness too. It's like, things
class, you don't fall in that category. Shut up.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. I'm from a state that I think are
not coolest... you, Caleb. I was talking to Noah.
I think I come from a state where the coolest thing we have is a Walmart in our hometown. So, I mean,
and that's right next to, I imagine, a Pizza Ranch, which has 5-star ratings.
No, 3 stars. People are ornery here.
Oh, that's true. So, the cool thing about Minneapolis, and, talking to, people that are actually natives of New York, which, probably has one of the better food scenes. They call it New York Junior, actually, just because of, how much is out there. But if you're going to want to gotta go to some mainstays, if you like Italian food, which I love Italian food, there's a couple options. One is Red Rabbit. It's the same ownership as Red Cow. They're right downtown. They do a really good job. Or is it Bar La Grassa is also another really good spot there in the North Loop. Caleb's Dallas. I don't know. Have you actually ate there, Caleb?
I've been to both places. They're both two of my favorites.
Yeah, Marlon Ross is great.
He's doing a good job so far, Noah. Let him keep talking.
Burger place, obviously at the sister restaurant Red Cow, really good burgers, and even better cheese curds. They're almost like State Fair cheese curds, honestly. I have to get cheese curds every time I go there. It's fantastic. For steaks, there's really only two options that you really have. Actually, I'll give you three. There's Murray's right off of 6th. Yep. There's Manny's in the Fauché. And then there's actually a kind of a sister restaurant company. One's in Wayzata, one's in Roseville. And it's the Roseville, it's Baldemar. They are kind of a newer place. And then their sister restaurant is Six Smith out there right on the Boatworks building, right on Lake Minnetonka. Just fantastic steaks. They're all 28-day aged prime steaks. And Noah, can you do me a favor? Write down all these places. We need to call them for sponsorships, honestly.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. I'm going to throw the one thing. If we end up stuck on the couch, is everyone cool with Carboni's pizza, or is there better pizza out there?
Carboni's is good. Red Savoy's is pretty good.
Red Savoy's,
Red Savoy's is good. There's also a place in Egan that does wood-fired pizza. In fact, you actually have to call almost an hour and a half ahead to get a spot into it. It's called not Bella Torres. Oh, geez. Now my old brain's kicking in. But it's right off of Cliff and Cedar. It's just to the west side of Cedar Avenue. And their pizza is absolutely fantastic too. So that's another good spot. That's a little less known just because it's the one location, a mom and pop shop, but it's kind of like that true Italian pizzeria plus like Italian deli also in there as well. So it's a really cool little spot.
All of these are good options. I've been to all of them. Noah, he did a great job. I'm impressed. Yeah. I didn't know Nick was such a foodie, but if he takes us to all these places in one night, we're in a good spot. We'll never have to eat again.
I don't even
his tab.
I say I don't even know if he takes us to all the places, as long as he's paying the bill. That's all I'm.
Yeah.
I mean, his running tab at Val's might be like $7.50, so it's not too bad yet. So,
definitely not too bad.
I thought the road trip was sponsored by Ben Holden. Actually, we better give him a call.
Ben, absolutely, yeah.
But the food scene in Minneapolis is pretty good now. In St. Paul, there's a couple of other spots too that my favorite one. I only got to go there once. It was Pazzaluna's. That was an Italian place. They closed down from the pandemic. There's a lot of stuff on what's called Selby Avenue. It's kind of like a more historical kind of district there, Selby and Grand, kind of those areas.
Isn't that kind of kitty corner from Allianz Field?
Not even yes, actually. So
not even close, but yes.
Yeah, because if you follow Selby the opposite direction, you go to Hamlin, isn't it?
Yes. So if you follow Selby East. Yeah, holy hell, you know something. If you follow Selby East, you run into the St. Paul Cathedral. But online, there's some main stations. They got Moscow on the Hill for Russian food and Russian drinks. They actually make their own cherry vodka in-house. It's absolutely fantastic. And if you're looking to get sauced one night, go there. They will take care of you. No how. It's now called just the Gnome. It used to be called the Happy Gnome. That's definitely more of your traditional English just probably English food, but really, really, really good. One of my favorite spots is called Sweeney's. Sweeney's right off of Dale. And it's kind of like your old American bar food, but they have a really, really sweet patio and the best beer, better chicken strips I think you'll ever have in your freaking life. So fantastic.
And then the Gnome's been on my list of restaurants to try. I went to the Happy Gnome when it was the Happy Gnome before. And it was great. And I've passed by the Dome. Revival's right over there as well.
Revival, yeah.
Location. It's incredible. So, yeah, we have plenty of good options. I'm glad he's naming Twin Cities because we don't have this many options in North Dakota. I'm just going to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
we got about 3. Dude, I'm trying to get out here. I'm just saying.
One's called the Country Kitchen, just so you know.
I mean, I'm tempted to visit Mr. Maxon when the Huskies visit Grand Forks, but I don't know how long I can sit in the sea of green. I mean, that's a bit much. Caleb.
We really had to coordinate that. Yeah, we should coordinate that because I've been thinking about it. And isn't it like I have the schedule over here? I should just
December 3rd and 4th, I believe, is when.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Or is that when North Dakota's here? It's one of the two.
3rd and 4th. Yeah.
The only reason I perk up at that is simply because December 3rd is a Friday and it's actually my birthday. So yeah.
Nice
so
flex.
So if you're not buying me food at that particular juncture, I don't know what the whole.
There's a taco bar around the corner.
The Huskies are home.
Yeah, the Huskies will be in Grand Forks the end of January. It's like the 28th and 29th.
Yeah.
Which, depending what the weather's like, I always get fearful of, like, if it's the middle of winter, getting up there in the middle of winter is treacherous. But if it's not too bad, and I'm going to admit this, I have not been to a game at the Ralph yet.
I was just going to ask you.
I have not yet, and it's been on the bucket list. And you could probably say I'm not an elite college hockey fan until I've been.
It's really not that nice, Caleb.
You know, honestly, like, I did a virtual tour of their arena, I think during the Pandy last year, because I had never been. I've only seen pictures. I've seen how great everyone talks about how great it is, and I was impressed from the virtual tour. I'm like, dang.
I'll be honest, Caleb. If you're ever in North Dakota on like a non-game weekend, I do have some connections. You should take an actual tour and see what it's like underneath, where all the locker rooms in and where their room is. I mean, you don't have to you can hate the University of North Dakota, but that tour it's something special. Caleb, I kind of wanted to transition. I've only got one more question for you here. First of all, it's no secret we appreciate having you with the involvement of our show and, what you do for us. I think, I don't know that we get to say that often, but obviously, we didn't know you at all before we had our show. So it's kind of a cool little relationship that's developed between the three of us.
Didn't know a whole lot of people, to be honest with you, Noah.
Yeah, that's fair. Hey, I'm from North Dakota. I probably know more cows than I do people, but
you can probably name them all too.
Hey, you leave old Bessie alone. Anyway, when you've listened to our show as the avid listener that you have been, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, is there a particular, story or two, or a particular guest, a particular show? Is there like any highlights that kind of you go back to that you think of that you go, yeah, that was really cool? Obviously your episode with Go Huskies Woo still remains the most numerically successful show in our history. But I mean, just kind of out of curiosity, is there a particular guy or is there a particular guest that we need to have on that we haven't gotten around to, in your opinion?
Well, first off, I love all your episodes. I listen to it, weekly, and not both episodes. When you guys do a great job of diving into the men's and women's team, I've told you that before, and I think you have built a really great connection with the players on the men's and women's teams, both, all the coaching staffs, and had some fun guests on. I smiled at the shout out when you had Molly Iliakainen on. She was a friend when I went to school there, so that was cool to see you connect with her. Also, I think I always enjoy, because I love him so much, the Brett Larson episodes. I know you guys have built such a great rapport with him, which is great. I think you guys do such a great job for the men's and women's team, honestly. As far as segments go, I think you guys also, you dive into the Minnesota Wild quite a bit too, which I appreciate, because it's also a love of mine. And you guys have just such a great hockey sense, both being former players, broadcasters, know the game so well, and you're not homers with it either. Like, you're going to tell it how it is. Yes, you're the Huskies Warming House podcast, but you'll also be very honest. Like, if the Huskies didn't have a great weekend, or even things they need to clean up, you're going to be honest about it. So I've always appreciated that. Your humor as well, I think, goes a long way. I laugh at you guys, which also kind of like gets my brain turning on the Twitter sphere as well. So like, what am I going to tweet at Nick? I know you guys had talked about potentially getting Bob Motzko on. I think that would be super interesting. Maybe even more interesting after the weekend series we just recently had.
Yeah, it's been a while. He was episode, I want to say 18, way back in July of 2020. It's been a while.
And I will say for Bob, and this is no disrespect to Bob, but he's a tough one to get a hold of.
He is.
Even if you watch the broadcast on Fox 9 Plus, when I was interviewing him before the game, he was in the tunnel. He had a whole bunch of I don't know if it was family or close friends of his, and they were actually kind of delaying the process of us getting our interview because, we're trying to get it into before the show. But, as soon as the question, before even the camera cut, I was already like trying to skedaddle out of there. He's never been one that loved the media per se. He's done it, and he's been very gracious with his time in doing so. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that, but he's definitely not one that is out seeking, the media. So he's a tough one. I think it would be actually great to get Garrett Raboyne on with his assistant. I think he'd be a little bit more accessible. And I think he would have some insights, obviously from Bob, because, he's been his right-hand man and on the bench for so long. So that's actually on my wish list, just going off of that. But, if Bob was more accessible, no question about it. I just feel like, especially now mid-season, that's a tough ask right now.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was great that you guys got a chance to connect with Mick Hatton too. I think I had said that before of like, hey, you know, I think that was on my wish list. We didn't talk about it in the last episode, but I was like, Mick does incredible work. I think it would be just a great conversation, and he obviously is great, and you know, with the Rink Live and everything that he puts out too. So, you know, I'm trying to think of any other future guests to put me on.
I know the one that's been kind of on our bucket list has been Matt Cullen, and we really haven't done a job of reaching out to him, but he's a guy that we would love to have on the show. Nick, I will say before I kick it over to you for the last question, the sports writer in my hometown, Matthew Semich, who a couple of Huskies fans follow, did a great piece actually on the Frozen Four and the false positive COVID test. A nice little story for USCHO. So he writes for USCHO. He used to cover the Omaha Mavericks, the Omaha Homies, quite a bit back in the day. But he's my hometown writer, and actually caught up with Brett Larson at a NCHC event or something last week. And apparently, off the record or to Matt, Brett had some really nice things to say about you and I, Nick. And I thought, you know, I might as well say it on the show that obviously if Brett's listening, we appreciate stuff like that. That stuff, I think, like for me, especially goes a long way to hear, you know, he's just such a classy human being, and to have that extend even just for us, we feel like the little guys sometimes when you compare, you know, Mick Hatton and obviously the Soda Pod when they do their coverage and that sort of thing. So and Brett Larson, we appreciate that. But Nick, do you have any other questions for our esteemed guest?
Yes, one more. You know, Caleb, you talk about, you know, the Twitter gears that keep turning in your head. And, you know, and I love the arm wrestling. I love the wrestling, you know, kind of the theatrics that you go with it. But every wrestler has their KO move. And I feel like you haven't pulled that out yet. So my question is, what is that top rope move? What is Caleb Peabody's go-to? I mean, it might be. But
why would I tell you that? I'm not going to tell you that. Like, honestly, if I told you that, then you'd see it coming. You know, the top rope move, I had to think of something that would be fun. Like, and I thought, what would be really like dorky and fun? And I'm like, we're going to arm wrestle. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have the Harvard of the Midwest championship belt, which if that's an actual thing, I'm sorry if that's trademarked somewhere, but that's what I made up. And that's what we're going to do. And honestly, I just like to remind you, I mean, I have Macho Man Randy Savage gifts every time I tweet at you.
Yeah, you do.
And I find that funny. Maybe some folks don't, but you know, I can't tell you what the secret move is.
So,
I mean, you can't see it coming.
What if the matchup is actually you both arm wrestle, but at the same time, each of you has a double Val's cheeseburger and you have to win the arm wrestling battle and finish the burger first?
Neither one of us will win. Nick will fall asleep and I will lose because I'm the worst arm wrestler of all time. That's what's so funny about it is like Nick has said I'm a terrible arm wrestler, and I'm like, so am I. Like Nick probably will beat me. There's no doubt. Or he'll fall asleep first, or he'll forget his glasses, or any of the other things.
I'll miss the call time because I had my warm glass of milk. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm like, what can still be fun? And again, like positive, upbeat, funny, and it'll probably run its course. Like probably 6 months from now, I'll have to think of something new, if not sooner. But it also like, it's funny because Nick will tweet about something so random, as you know, Noah. He can tweet about like, man, it rained today. And I'll be like, you want to talk about rain? Here we go. And then I'll go about, you know.
And mind you, for those listening to the show, that's in all caps, by the way.
Yep.
So
all caps, which is, like I text in all caps a lot. It's been kind of my thing. And my friends know this. They're like, why are you always yelling? Like, why? And I'm like, no, all caps has just kind of been my thing. And it's fun. The people that know me know it. And so I've just done it with Nick too. And I think even the first time he sent a gift back to me, he's like, stop yelling. Like,
You've been getting pretty bold with the all caps ones though. When you go ham, I mean they're starting to get pretty intense, and I love them. I think they're great. Caleb, in Noah Grant fashion, I do have one more question because I thought Nick was actually going to follow up on this, and he didn't. You did mention real quickly the Minnesota Wild. They're 4-1 now. Of course, as soon as we mentioned them being 4-0 in our show, they lose a hockey game in very decisive fashion.
I think I called that on this last episode too. I said they'll lose today.
Yeah,
and they looked terrible. By the way, they looked like a team that was out of gas. But
we're recording.
Slow.
Yeah, we're recording here on Tuesday, October 26th. They're actually playing tonight. But Caleb, quick thoughts on the Minnesota Wild, Kirill Kaprizov. What do you like? What don't you like?
So they've been very entertaining to watch. They're a fun team. I love the talent on the team. I know there's been some talk like worried about Kirill and his slow start. It's going to happen. It's going to go. He seems like the type of player that once he gets one, they're going to come in bunches. So I'm not worried about Kirill at all. I think I love what I'm seeing from Marcus Foligno. Some of the other guys too, like Sturm and a lot of the fun guys as well. They're just playing with a lot of energy, except minus this last game. As Nick said, I was just going to chime in and say they looked a little bit slow, a little bit out of gas. I believe they play Vancouver tonight in Vancouver. So it should be interesting. I think they're going to make this. They're going to make a run. I do think they're going to make the postseason. I would be interested to see what Bill Guerin does towards the deadline. If this team keeps progressing, like I know where our cap situation is at, but I still think as part of our D core that we might be missing, one of those pieces as we get to the bottom six. But they're a fun team to watch. I'm super enjoying them. I was a little disappointed in Kakinen the other night, but someone reminded me on the broadcast, I think maybe it was Anthony LaPanta mentioned it too. It's like he hasn't played in net since maybe the last regular season game of last year. Yeah. And if I'm wrong, you misquote me there, but when you think about that, it's like, oh, as a goaltender, he's seen reps in practice and things of that nature in preseason, but an actual game that matters, it's been a while. So
he also got kind of hung out to dry in period number one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I saw some tweets
via the penalty box. My God, they took way too many penalties.
Oh yeah. And, I know that's been a question too, as far as a backup goaltender, I do believe in Kakinen. I think we saw a period of time last year that he was just standing on his head when Cam was out for a bit. And then he went through kind of a rough patch later on. But as we know with our own STSU goaltending, which has been the best goaltending in the country, I know this is off topic, but I'm going to get my plug in right now. It has been the best. It can be very streaky with goaltenders at times too. So I think when he finds his game, that's only going to help us because we're going to need two goaltenders going through the long 82 game season. So it's good to see the XL Energy Center packed again. I'm hoping to get to quite a few games on Nick Maxon's dime. And then, it'll be great to see that team live. We have the greatest arena in the NHL. That's my opinion. And so, just to see fans back in stands, I know you guys have talked about it. That's it's super important to me. And whether it's the Herb or the XL or my local rink here, when I'm trying to skate by myself, which probably doesn't go well.
The one thing I'll disagree with you on, I like the X's layout because I like that they don't have those really upper corners there. There are just no good views there. But as far as the atmosphere, dude, Vegas absolutely fucking kills it. I'm sorry. They just absolutely do.
So T-Mobile Arena, I was in Vegas a couple weeks ago. I didn't see T-Mobile Arena, but it was my first question because I've heard that the atmosphere looks incredible. I know the pregame experience is incredible and it makes sense. It's Vegas. I can't wait to go to a game out there. Hopefully it'll be a wild game.
They keep it rolling, honestly, from the time there's a plaza outside the arena. And they have a live DJ. They've got places where you can take. So it's very interactive. So from the time you actually are even rolling up to the arena, they have that positive and that very energetic vibe. They carry it through the pregame, which again, no one can touch them, but they keep that same energy throughout the entire game. They really do. The production value that they put on just to try to keep it fun and keep it, more about how, a hockey game. I don't think I've seen an arena do that as well as they have. And being that they're only this is their fourth or fifth year in the league. They've nailed it. They've absolutely freaking nailed it. And that's, I've been to a few stadiums, the old Detroit building, which had its own, historical aura. That was a fun, really loud building in itself. Again, the X has always been good. But then again, Vegas, I would challenge any hockey fan to go out there and watch a game just because of just how great the atmosphere is, honestly.
Well, I can't wait for you to take us. There we go.
Exactly.
On our next road trip.
Exactly.
Nick's like end the call right now. He's like episode over because we're just running up.
Where's the dump button? So
right there.
With that being said, though, boys, that will wrap it up here for episode number 84. Caleb, again, always a pleasure to have you on the show. For those, who actually do want to follow and see how well you chirp me, how can they find you on social media, and how can they, watch from afar from the stands per se, the wrestling matches taken over the social interwebs.
Absolutely. Boys, thanks for having me on again. Hopefully we can do.
What's your Twitter handle? We need to know that first.
Oh yeah, Caleb J Peabody at Caleb J Peabody on Twitter. If you follow Nick, you'll see me because all his quote retweets are probably gifts of me towards him. So Caleb J Peabody.
Awesome.
I mean, while you're at it, folks, you could also follow at Warming House Den. If you're feeling it. I mean,
look at that. Nick forgot about his own channel. Look at that. Nick probably forgot the password too.
Actually, okay. I did, but it's no one that usually is in control of that Twitter handle. So, but again, Caleb, again, thanks for the support. Thanks for being on the show. Mm-hmm. And we'll see you, in the social media verse here again. Have a good night, man.
Absolutely. You too. Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Caleb. Always fun to catch up with friends, right? Caleb, just an absolute beauty of a human being and a great guy. And hopefully we get a chance to check up with him. We actually haven't ever met him in person per se. So I'm excited to hopefully get a chance to do that at some point. Obviously, maybe at a Huskies hockey game, if you will, as my background is doing funny things here for the audio listeners here. Gotta love that.
That's what you get for living in North Dakota. Everything just starting to fail behind you.
Yeah, and everything turns green behind me. I am not an effing Hawks fan. I'll put it to you that way. Nick, how did you enjoy Caleb's interview, and what are you looking forward to coming up this week? I think it'd be important if you're able to remind our listeners that we might be recording at a different time, but our episode's still going to come out at the same time, if that's helpful for anybody.
I don't feel like I ever stop interviewing Caleb because we go back and forth on Twitter so often, but no, he's a fun dude. He loves to, I think he actually be a really good chirper, if he actually could, skate and, play hockey. He says he can skate, maybe not well, but I think, his chirping would still be A+. I think that'd be great to have him on the bench for that. Yeah. So always enjoyable conversation with Caleb. And yes, because of the Halloween, I don't know if you want to call it a holiday, but because of the celebration with candy and ghosts and goblins and fun movies and stuff like that, we're going to be recording Saturday night. Also kind of makes sense too, because the Huskies again are off this week. So trying to spend a little bit of time with family actually works for me too, because we're going to be having a joint birthday for my niece and my nephew as well coming up. So some family scenes between, I know you have some family things as well. And so kind of just perfect timing for us to kind of just do a little bit early. I think in fact, I don't think the release time at all, but as far as the recording goes, we're recording at night, which means we'll actually look a little bit more awake and not quite as groggy. At least I hope that's the case. So, but it works well for both of us as well.
Yeah, hoping for that. And of course, I think the release time might actually be just a little bit earlier on Sunday is usually what that kind of amounts to, but we'll have to see. Nonetheless, we'll have the episode out, normal day and that sort of thing. The only action going on, women's hockey is in Ohio State. So we might, I'm trying to remember, I think that's a Friday, Saturday matchup. So we should be able to still get both of those in on the episode, but for sure we'll get one hockey game on that one. But Nick, that's all I got for us. We're hoping, again, like we mentioned in the show, some men's hockey guests that we're trying to get on, just working through some scheduling. Of course, they're very busy and they're enjoying their downtime as well too, and getting their schoolwork done too. So for Nick Maxon, I'm Noah Grant, and we will see you in the den soon.
One-timer coming, they score! Ripped in! A bomb from Pervix!
So Dana Rasmussen fires and she scores! Dana Rasmussen for the Huskies alongside
Dwayne Kaprizov in for a chance to win it! He scores! Kirill the Thrill is for real! Welcome to the NHL!
Cathedral is now 42.6 seconds away from wrapping up the school's first ever title.